Hoboken Police Chief Kenneth Ferrante. Chief, it's a pleasure.
John, thank you very much. Good to see you once again.
Absolutely. So, as luck would have it, it's been a very robust couple of weeks for the Hoboken PD, needless to tell you. So, I think, first of all, people would like to know what happened with this crazy drug bust over at the Housing Authority a few days ago.
Sure. About 6 weeks out, we had some anonymous tips that came in from our tip line, and our detectives review that weekly. And when they get information from an anonymous source on this tip line, they have to try to corroborate it. Mm-hmm. So our investigators started looking at it, and it looked like we had some valid information. So they began some surveillance, started doing some evidence gathering, and they started getting hard evidence that showed there was drug distribution activity coming out of this apartment in 310 Jackson Street. Mm-hmm. The plan that was put in place by our detectives after the surveillance was done, the information gathering was done, Detective Sergeant Mecca briefed our detectives and myself the morning of the raid after a search warrant was applied for and a judge approved. And then we went up to the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office where Mecca gave the briefing, and then the commander of the Hudson County Regional SWAT team, which Prosecutor Suarez put into place last year. Excellent team, well planned and well trained for these exercises and these operations.
So there were a lot of agencies involved in this. I think it was 5, right?
5 on the base, but with the regional SWAT team, there were members from almost every agency in the county.
And that's pretty standard?
It's about a year now. So
okay.
We have the team in place a year. They've had close to 10 operations so far. And this was the first time we utilized them in Hoboken. There's a threat matrix that's done when you apply for a search warrant, and it shows what level of police law enforcement should do the raid. And this called for a SWAT team to be utilized. There was a potential for weapons to be in there. There was a gun in there. There was hollow point bullets, which is illegal. And there was multiple drugs, 3 different drugs that were being sold at it, 3 different types of drugs that were being sold at the apartment. So the information was accurate. The planning that was done by our detectives and the SWAT team was excellent, and then the execution of it, I was amazed how smooth it went. It really went from a law enforcement's perspective. It was A+ operation.
So it was the best case scenario.
And always the best case scenario. You're dealing with a SWAT team. There were 5 potential targets. All targets are there, so the information was accurate. And drugs and gun in the apartment, that was accurate. And my first fear is, could you have potential injuries to the suspects themselves? Are they going to try to use force against law enforcement? The officers going in and any civilians. And it went clear across the board, no injuries to anyone. So they went in with strong force. That SWAT team knowing through precision training how to enter that apartment and take control of 4 or 5 people. And once they get the people out under arrest, then our detectives are able to go in and then start securing evidence. And as I said, A+ operation.
So I'm sure every drug bust has its own set of unique circumstances. Mm-hmm. In this particular instance, my understanding was that there were at least 3 of the 5 arrested were family members, right?
Yes, we had we'll call his son, Randall Richardson was the main target, 40 years of age. We've had dealings with him since he was a juvenile. And his mother was involved in the operation. At first, he was trying to say that was not the case, but there was enough evidence that is 100% she was involved in the operation. And we also have his nephew who's also involved.
Interesting. And then on another note, but also I believe a housing authority arrest, there was this stabbing among a bunch of teens, young adults, I guess I should say, really. So my understanding was that was some sort of targeted attack. Could you tell us a little more?
Absolutely. This happened actually in the uptown area of Hoboken, between 9th and 11th Street, Clinton to Adams. We're talking about all 18-year-olds mm-hmm. that were involved in this. And it was an incident between 2 acquaintances. And what ends up happening is the one acquaintance ends up getting friends of hers from Guttenberg and North Bergen to do this attack, planned attack on this individual. And the victim sustained 10 puncture wounds, stab wounds. And our detectives, this happened at 12:56 a.m., Monday night to Tuesday morning. And within 4 hours, the two main culprits, the female who planned the operation and the stabber, were arrested. And within a day, a third party was arrested. So 3 have already been taken to court for their first hearings, and our detectives are still sorting out, trying to get that 4th individual that was involved.
So do you get the sense that this was like a romantic relationship that went totally south, or?
We have the details of what their acquaintance and relationship was, which I cannot give because of court. So.
All right, understand.
More will come out I'm certain more will come out after their criminal justice reform court appearances, because if it's in the court dockets, they'll show what their relationship was.
Fair enough. All right, well, we got to keep an eye on that.
Yes.
So another thing that I've noticed when you're sending out press releases is the street crimes unit has been making a lot of arrests, mostly drug-related, if I'm not mistaken. So just tell us when that unit formed and what their main role is and how they are doing enforcement actions.
We hadn't had a street crimes unit probably in about 10 to 15 years, which is a plainclothes operation. We try to pick a targeted time that we feel where's crime happening. And it actually, I have to give the credit to a retired detective sergeant, Willie Vera, who I came on the job with and retired back in the summer. And everybody that retires, I do a debriefing and exit interview.
Yeah.
And I ask 6, 7 questions, and he said, "Can I add something else? We need to get a street crimes unit back. That instead of just doing the regular follow-up that we usually do with going to get video evidence, interviewing suspects, witnesses, victims, have a proactive street crimes unit." So I looked at our crimes that we do have, what are prevalent in the city, which bike thefts, package thefts. We have a small, limited number of robberies. We have a high arrest rate on robberies. I want them out there looking for people that could potentially be doing robberies. Burglaries, again, low number, high arrest rate. Let's try to get it proactively, because even though we have an arrest rate that's at 30.6% for 2018, we gauge these in 6-month periods. 4 consecutive periods were over 30%. What the state police, FBI look for, if you're doing over 20%, you're doing good police work. Last year we had 32.1. I did not hear a number higher than that in the state of New Jersey in 2017.
So you're about 50% above average.
We are, yes. And we're almost 3 times higher in the area of robbery. We're almost 3 times higher in the area of burglary with our arrest rates, because when I became chief, we expanded the investigations bureau hours. During my term, we expanded again. So we basically have detectives actively working 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, but they're also available on that midnight shift. The hot job, big job comes in, an aggravated assault, sexual assault, something with weapons, they're in immediately. We have detectives on call. And that's what happened on this night, where Sergeant Collins and Detective Adam Clone, they were on this investigation within 15 minutes after it happening. And within 4 hours, they have an arrest. They're from, Sergeant Collins is from the street crimes unit. Mm-hmm. But going back to the street crimes unit, the focus, I wanted robbery, burglary, package thefts, bike thefts, wanted persons, any information they get on weapons. I look at things, what can hurt people. Mm-hmm. And also any large-scale drug activity that could be potential. The mindset in the entire state moved away from narcotics teams going to housing authorities and grabbing people off the street with small drug arrests. That is, we're seeing in the change right now, in the marijuana legalization, which is coming. Yeah. We're seeing it in talks of expungements. So we have not had those teams going out for those type of activity for the past couple of years. This street crimes, even though they've made some drug arrests, while the laws are on the book, they cannot ignore a drug offense in there. It's still a 100% mandate arrest if a drug activity happens in front of any police officer. Because I hear
marijuana is still a gram of marijuana.
Exactly, and we don't want our officers being tied up with it. They're focusing on larger crimes. They've made some good criminal arrests. They were involved with the drug raid, which is, I want to get large drug dealers, gun dealers, weapons possessors. I want them off the street. People that could hurt, other people. So.
Well, on that point of keeping the streets safe and trying to keep those more serious offenders, away from society, for lack of a better term, one thing that I noticed was that the street crimes unit arrested the same person twice in 10 days, and I was getting a lot of commentary both online and privately, like, this guy just got arrested 10 days ago. How is he back on the street? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, I think, are not familiar with how bail reform works in this kind of situation. So could you clue us in a little about how that works and, how that's impacted your department?
we're only about 2 years into criminal justice reform, and it definitely needed major adjustments in the beginning. We had a person 3 months into criminal justice reform arrested for dealing different types of drugs, including crystal meth, and possessing a sawed-off shotgun, and he was out in 2 days.
Oh.
I made a major issue of it at the state chiefs, and the AG's office worked with us and started to make sure these weapons charges didn't fall under the matrix. A lot of the criminal justice reform is heavily based on the person's prior history. So what we've seen is people arrested for burglary, people arrested for even robbery, released in 48 hours. We've seen, and not stay in jail. We've seen people with small charges having to go to the county jail because their, what they call PSA scale, is very high because of their prior history of crimes, violence.
Yeah.
So it's tough when you deal with a victim or witness to say, how is that person out? Even sometimes the arresting officer, the younger officer, doesn't realize it's a major adjustment, what we're seeing. Now, I think you're going to need a 2 or 3 year window to see, is violent crime going down in the state of New Jersey? And that's going to tell if this is working or not. We've had gun cases with at least 3 that come to mind where the person was out in 48 hours. And the officers and the public were alarmed by that. I was alarmed by it. And it would go, I would give a call to the prosecutor, and there's a steady matrix, and then the judge is making that final determination. There are some liberal decisions that are being made in the courts on that. We have to see. Again, still too early. We're 2 years into it. But I think, is violent crime dropping statewide? If it is, then obviously it's working. If it's the same, if crime's going up, then I think there needs to be a reassessment.
If it was up to you hypothetically, which obviously it's not, but if it was up to you hypothetically, thinking about how it's impacting the Hoboken PD, what do you think changes would be beneficial to your department?
As far as the criminal justice reform?
Yeah.
I think guns are what, we have a major problem in this country. New Jersey is one of the toughest, strictest states to get a gun. Mm. And we still have gun issues. I think when we have gun offenses, whether the gun is used or not on somebody, if somebody's possessing a handgun out in public that has a criminal background, that is a person that's labeled as a certain person not to be able to possess weapons, I think those are the people that need to be staying in jail until their trial. Mm-hmm. They are the danger to the public. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty. All arrestees are. When police officers, I know Chief Kelly has the issue a lot in Jersey City, when you have people being taken off streets in what is considered a crime area and they're possessing weapons, how are these people back on the street in a couple days? The other areas, we had burglary. Burglary ended up in the criminal justice reform as being deemed as non-violent. Mm. Ask that to the person when that burglar goes into their window in the middle of their night as they're home and they're startled and the burglar runs out of the house. Now talk to those people when the burglar is arrested and within 24, 48 hours they're being released because they're being deemed nonviolent, because they don't have aggravated assaults on their record, because they don't have weapons possessions on their record. We had a person, Mr. Diaz, I forget his first name, in the first year of criminal justice reform. We arrested him 12 times for burglary.
But what sort of time frame?
Oh, 6 months.
Wow.
And now the fortunate part is with criminal justice reform is instead of cases going 1 to 2 years, they want to get cases heard in 3 to 6 months. So finally, when the trial does come, the person's getting their jail time. So that is one of the benefits of it. But dealing with the investigators, the law enforcement officers that made arrests, the victims of these burglaries, for that 6 month period, you were seeing Diaz's name in our press releases constantly. And public perception is huge with all crime and all policing issues.
Sure.
As you know, I like Lieutenant Cruz to put out all of our arrests in press release. We're not hiding anything. We let the media pick. There are certain different media sites will deem different types of crimes as interesting to them and their viewers. We put them all out there. You get them timely fashion. We're talking about the following day.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Some sites still like to put out drug arrests, which I don't mind. I start getting hit on social media saying, we didn't think we arrested for marijuana possession anymore. Well, it's still illegal. You know, I see some of the marijuana advocates, some marijuana users that want to see this legal, when they see us still arresting people and they want to take the shot at social media, I have no problem engaging people on social media and discussing police issues.
I remember the one about the cereal and the marijuana inside. That had a lot of interesting responses.
A lot of people were saying, "Oh, there's no big deal." The amount that person had, it will not be legal when it is legalized to adult use. In vehicles, it's not going to be legal then. You know, I'm a county president of the Hudson County Chiefs of Police now. I'm also involved in the state Chiefs of Police for the past 5 years. We are consistent with we wanted decriminalization. We all believe, why tie up our officers for hours? Why should people get criminal records for these minor drug offenses? We're not for full adult use where just let people smoke, because our biggest concern is people behind the wheel.
Right.
I think most people in society are good people. They want to follow the law. When it is legal, people are going to say, "Oh, just like I would try a beer or alcohol, I'm going to try marijuana." You're going to get more smokers because of that. Oh, I'm not breaking the law now. I won't get arrested. It's going to be a lot more people with potential getting behind the wheel. So the major law enforcement concern, and AG Graywald has definitely seen this, and he has advised the governor on this. We are concerned with officers being able to take people off the streets that are behind the wheel under the influence of marijuana.
That's not going to change under any circumstances, right?
Well, the training's going to. There's 35,000 law enforcement officers in the state of New Jersey.
Okay.
3,500 are certified in the areas of DWI for alcohol. All the machines have gone under years, decades of scientific scrutiny to be proven to be used in court. We don't have that with drug use behind the wheel right now. There are only 100 DREs, which are drug recognition experts in the state of New Jersey, are law enforcement officers that can go to a scene and confirm someone is under the influence of drugs while driving.
Just 100 out of 35,000.
Just 100 out of 35,000. There are 7 in Hudson County. We have 2 of them in the city of Hoboken. Sergeant Ed Selleck, who's with the fatal crash team that the prosecutor put together, and also Officer Luke Cezatowski, who just became trained that last year. It is weeks of training and many interactions with the public in utilizing your training before you're certified. So law enforcement is years behind in that area right now. And AG Graywall definitely saw that. That was our main concern. We know a lot of people in this country, we know the majority of New Jersey want legalization of marijuana. That's a reality.
Absolutely.
Governor Murphy still has 3 years to make sure this, at least 3 years to make sure this happens. He wants it to happen. And whether it's from the financial issues, the social justice issues, there's a majority that wants it. It's going to happen. We just need to make sure with that happening, we're not endangering people that are on the roads and creating some type of danger that we don't have now.
Gotcha. So perhaps a little less about the violent crime, but on the topic of commuter and pedestrian safety, you know that Mayor Bala talked about Vision Zero in his state, the city, and I know you also get a lot of inquiries and concerned residents talking about pedestrian safety and bike lanes and things of that such, and I know you've recently been talking about ramping up that kind of enforcement. So can you tell us about that initiative?
Sure. The pedestrian safety is a major issue in town. Because we don't have a large amount of violent crime, it appears that the major concern is the pedestrian safety. We did have 3 consecutive years with 1 pedestrian struck and killed, 2015, 16, 17. 2018 was the first year we stopped that streak. We did not have any traffic fatalities in the city. We have Coffee with a Cop. I try to do them every other month. 3/4 of the complaints are about pedestrian safety. I also see you have many people that have moved into this area from out of state. They have to realize they're in the 3rd most congested city in the country. Okay, so we have 55,000 residents, give or take, in 1.3 square miles. We have close to 1 million commuters in our transportation hub, and many cars, especially Uber and Lyft with the ride-sharing services now, which is huge in this city.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have cars.
Yeah, we have also share the road concepts. Mayor Zimmer was a huge advocate of biking around town, trying to make safer roadways, more narrow roadways. I'm going to be delivering our annual crash report to Director Sharp and the mayor Monday or Tuesday, and we're going to see some encouraging numbers that we're moving in the right direction in pedestrians being struck, cyclists being struck. a lot on I would receive on Twitter, my Twitter page, and also the Hoboken PD Twitter page, pictures, videos of cars rolling through stop signs, double parked in different bike lanes, hanging off corners. So we did some initiatives around town. And funny, with every initiative, if you go after drivers, the pedestrians, bicyclists love it. The drivers saying you're being too harsh on us. If we do anything with bicyclists or pedestrians, even warnings, giving warnings out, we take some negative hits on social media.
I noticed, yeah.
Pedestrians and bikes can't kill anybody. Well, if pedestrians or bicyclists don't follow the law, they're creating a danger to themselves and others by where they're walking and biking. So we have a very we have to be very, very fair across the board. We understand reckless driving of cars is the most dangerous, and our summons numbers will show we're not ignoring that. Mm-hmm. But we try to do initiatives, both educational and enforcement, on all three. Majority, as the summons would show, are to cars. We also have to do some to pedestrians and bicyclists. Because I always challenge anybody, come for a ride along, especially like elected officials or directors, and let's watch these bikes going the wrong way, going through red lights, going through stop signs. They need to follow the law also. On Observer Highway, we had a couple bicyclists struck last year operating on the main roadway of Observer Highway. We had a large section of the city that did not take well to going down to one lane of traffic each way on Observer Highway with a huge bike lane just to the south of it. Why are these bicyclists using that huge dedicated bike lane? So Lieutenant Petrosino, who's the commander of our traffic bureau, he and his staff, we have a very large traffic bureau. We've made that larger every year. Mm-hmm. He does a great job in helping engage with the public with me, whether in meetings, social media, and we try to do initiatives aimed at all three. So we were getting all these complaints on Twitter the past year, and we said, let's try to formalize this better and do some initiatives each week. So we came up with an idea. Let's have a dedicated email, which will just be about pedestrian safety. So it's traffic@hobokenpd.org. Lieutenant Petrosino and his supervisors monitor it. And whenever we get videos or pictures sent to us on Twitter, we say, please send to this. We have a formal data collection of it. And then we're assessing. If we get the same area complained a few times, we're going to do initiatives there. And we like to publicly announce the initiatives we do. So it's been positive. We take some negative hits. People get mad if they get the summons. People get mad if the bicyclist is getting a summons, especially Bike Hoboken and a lot of bike advocates in town. They have a very strong group with their advocacy for biking. I've always gotten along with all the presidents of them. Probably the best, Ron Batista. We've always had great dialogue. And even just last night, as I'm watching the Devils game, I'm going back and forth with about 5 or 6 people on Twitter for about 2 hours with good, healthy debate about parking summonses, moving violations, bicycles, where should cars be. We handle over 98,000 calls per year. Okay, we had 2 years that we went over 100,000 the first time in the history of the department. That's a lot of calls for service for 140 plus officers. So when people send me parking complaints, yellow zones, bike lanes blocked, I'm honest with them and say that is not a priority of the Hoboken Police Department at this time. We have a Hoboken Parking Utility. We work great with Director Ryan Sharp. He has a lot of people out there issuing summonses. I think if you had people on every block, you'll have the store owners and businesses and the residents saying, we don't want this big brother issuing everywhere. Right. Well, so it's a very fine line.
There's obviously a collaborative relationship between the parking authority and the PD, but I think
for the most part,
but
with the directive, without a doubt.
But I think, like you just said, a lot of people don't really know where their duties start and yours begin, mm-hmm. or vice versa. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could clear that up.
Great. Thank you. Excellent question. I like to tell the residents, if they have a parking complaint during daytime hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., that should go to the parking utility. They have many people out there giving summonses. If it's coming overnight or on a weekend, then they can filter it to the Hoboken Police Department. And this is for parking. Yeah. Our officers have a right to issue summons for any single statute. Any city ordinance, any Title 39, which is your motor vehicle, any criminal statute. So, and a police officer that's out patrolling, I cannot have them focused on the parking complaints. Because if you and I go outside right now, we're going to find one in every single block in the city. That is without a doubt. When you have that many people in town, that's what you have. When you have that many rideshare services operating in this town, you're going to have that. Last year, Lieutenant Petrosino did a study up by Pier 13, and in 60 minutes, there were 70 Uber and Lyft drop-offs in an hour.
Wow.
That's a lot. That shows we have hundreds in town. So that's a lot of motor vehicle operation. So if it's a weekend or a night, filter the call to 420-2100, which is the police. But if it's a weekday, I would say please call Parking Utility 653-1919. And when our officers are on patrol, they're looking for blocked hydrants. That's immediate danger. Cars hanging off corners. The motorist that's blocked in by the double parker. The handicap spot that's blocked. The driveway that's blocked so people can't get in and out. Those are probably the five most. I don't want them looking at yellow zones. I don't want them focusing on that car that might be only 15 feet from the corner instead of 25. Mm-hmm. We have to worry about moving violations, cars driving around careless, reckless, criminal activity. We are in a counterterrorism era where we've really taught our officers we're target hardening, we're watching for suspicious activity. So with a transportation hub as big as it is, 930,000 weekly commuters, I don't want them going tunnel vision on parking complaints. And I'm always honest about that. We can handle it. If you make a complaint to us about it at night or weekend, we're going to try to handle it. But it is not a priority, and that's just reality.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to give a ticket to everyone who has their flashers on, nothing else is ever going to get done. But you mentioned counterterrorism, and I mean, I know we've spoken about this before, but we haven't talked about it in a while. So could you just tell us a little bit about some of the new initiatives that has entailed and how they're being enacted?
I think I attend the monthly state briefing, which is all the state chiefs, and we get briefed usually by the Department of Homeland Security. We go over to NYPD, runs probably quarterly, different conferences, and post 9/11, and it has gotten so much better in the last 10 years, it continues to get better. The dialogue from the federal agencies to the state agencies to the county agencies to the municipal agencies are fluent. They are daily. I get many emails daily that, based on the content I'll share with different levels of our department, whether it's a command staff, whether it's all our supervisors, whether it's all of our officers. So the information sharing is probably the biggest gain in the law enforcement community that helps the residents. Target hardening on each agency. We are a city with major events, a lot of events, which is great. It's what our community loves. My command staff and I, we cringe when we hear about some of the events that come, like, because the preparation. As soon as we are aware of it, we have to go into full preparation mode. We contact the Joint Terrorism Task Force. We contact the Department of Homeland Security. We start monitoring the event to see any potential dangers. We have an ESU team now up and running for the past 2 years that will be involved in the operation. We have our counterterrorism liaisons, which will be in daily contact with the Joint Terrorism Task Force. We'll get an assessment done by the department, like on popular events in Hoboken, the fall and spring Arts and Music Festival on Washington Street. Based on weather could bring 50,000 people. Weeks out, we will have the Department of Homeland Security come and do a walkthrough, and they will look for any potential threat that they could see by layout, and they'll give it to us, and they'll give recommendations.
Parade.
Any event that can have over 1,000 people.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a lot of work, but it's definitely been successful in this state. This state is very good with that, and you saw the operation the day of the Rahimi bombing down at the 5K race, the military 5K race down the shore, and his bombing in Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know, that day we had a Oyster Fest going on in Peoria, which was the largest amount of people gathering for a publicized event in the state that day. The communications that I had with the FBI, state police, New Jersey Transit, who immediately sent dogs, it was immediate. We're talking less than an hour after the bombing down at the 5K race. Yeah. So that's how good communications are in the law enforcement community nowadays.
Excellent. Well, Chief, I think we covered a lot of ground. Anything else you wanted to throw out there before we part ways?
Yeah. No, I think we had some good topics. I always enjoy talking with the media. I think that was a key thing when I came in 2014. You would never get no comment from me. I want the public to know what our officers are doing, what they're dealing with, and I also want to hear back if there's a complaint or if there's an idea, and we'll research it.
Does the Devils take home the cup this year?
They're not even going to the playoffs this year. So, we have a few Devils that live in town. We have a former St. Peter's Prep player, Kyle Palmieri, that's their leading scorer.
Yeah.
Great guy. He's friends with a few of our officers. And so I want to speak negatively where I think they need to make a couple changes, but it was a tough season.
I hear you. It happens. You can't win them all. Chief, it was a bit of
John,
pleasure.
thank you so much for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much. Appreciate you joining us. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.
And thanks to Bus Reports, of course, my buddy Mark Busanich for helping us make this all possible.